Imagine waking up to discover that everything you've been taught about life, reality, and even your own soul is a carefully constructed illusion. What if I told you there's a hidden ledger of truths so powerful and unsettling that the keepers of modern science and ancient spirituality alike have gone to extraordinary lengths to bury it? Tonight, we're peeling back the curtain on a forbidden archive of consciousness, where neuroscience collides with mysticism and the subconscious mind whispers secrets few dare to acknowledge. Over the next chapters, we'll journey through the uncharted territories of your psyche, decoding strange neurological anomalies, unlocking cryptic spiritual symbols, and tracing the quantum threads that bind your past and future selves. But be warned, once you glimpse the deeper mechanics of your awareness, there's no turning back. Something stirs at the edge of perception, and it's racing toward revelation. Coming up next, you'll understand why no one talks about this, and how this secret could change everything. Long before breath filled your lungs, your essence hovered in a boundless expanse, signing a pact of cosmic forgetfulness. As faint galaxies shimmered in the silent dark, you agreed to wipe the slate of memory clean. But what if that sacred erasure never reached its mark entirely? Neuroscience hints at residual echoes, ghostly imprints pulsating beneath conscious thought. And now, one spark within you is igniting questions that challenge the entire design. Imagine your mind as an endless library, its shelves once brimming with every chapter of your soul's origin. Deep psychology describes latent schemas, manuscripts tucked beneath fresh layers of perception. Could those whispered fragments of déjà vu be sidelong glances at that hidden collection? Every neuron firing might carry an encrypted verse of your pre-birth narrative. As you lean closer, the aisles stretch beyond sight, beckoning you toward untold secrets. In the shadowed corners of your psyche, a silent librarian watches, rearranging memories you cannot grasp. Quantum experiments reveal that observation itself reshapes reality. Could your awareness bend time in reverse? What if those fleeting intuitions are Morse code from a self you once knew intimately? Spiritual symbolism suggests a phoenix of remembrance is rising from the ashes of amnesia. But just as you sense a pattern forming, the librarian hushes the silence again. Every heartbeat carries electromagnetic whispers, subtle ripples of energy that defy explanation. Neuroscientists measure activity with precision, yet these signals seem to carry messages unaccounted for. When anxiety flares or joy erupts without cause, is it emotion or an echo from that pre-birth covenant? Philosophers argue we live in a projected reality, and perhaps we're merely fragments of a grander script. One brushstroke of awareness could reveal the unfinished narrative lurking beneath your everyday life. Symbols in your dreams appear, like fragments of an ancient ceremony, etched into your subconscious mind. Each vision glows with uncanny recognition, as though you've witnessed the rites before time began. Jungian archetypes may guide you back to that moment of silent consent, deep within. As you decode these spectral symbols, a familiar name hovers at the edge of your recall. And when the final glyph emerges, you'll realize it holds the threshold of every memory. At the heart of your being lies a locked chamber, sealed by forces beyond comprehension. Mindfulness unveils a stillness where the echo of your contract hums like a distant mantra. You inch toward the lock, fingertips grazing. Its cold surface. Will the mechanism release? The air trembles with possibility, and the corridor behind you fades into shadow. And in that breath before revelation, you'll confront the question you never knew you needed to ask. You arrived in this world ostensibly unmarked, a pristine canvas craving its first stroke of experience. Yet, why do certain memories flicker, like distant stars in the night of your mind? Deep psychology posits hidden schemas beneath that white expanse, secrets waiting to be illuminated. Could those spontaneous insights be the residue of a script you agreed to erase before birth? And as your awareness sharpens, the erased lines begin to glow with stubborn defiance. Imagine your neurons as diligent scribes, repurposing ancient drafts into the story you call life. Each synapse rewires itself in real time, weaving old motifs through fresh patterns of thought. When déjà vu strikes, is it merely coincidence or the imprint of lines you once penned? Neuroscientists speak of neuroplasticity, but what if these shifts echo a language older than biology? The more you probe, the more the neural manuscript strains against its imposed censorship. A sudden flash of intuition feels like an unauthorized footnote in your conscious narrative. Symbolic images surface unbidden, a rose wilting in reverse, the echo of a promise unkept. Philosophers suggest reality is co-authored by observer and observed. So, who truly wrote your opening act? As you trace these anomalies, a pattern emerges. You're not generating new content, you're rediscovering lost verses. But just as you start to decode one passage, the ink begins to smudge. When fear and longing rise without clear origin, they're not mere chemical surges, but encrypted signals. Advanced EEG scans detect ghostly currents, hints of memories refusing their exile. What if your emotional storms are the soul's protest against enforced amnesia? Every pulse, every tremor in your heart might be a cipher waiting for the right key to unlock. And in that moment of trembling insight, the ground beneath this paradox will quake. Philosophical mystics liken the mind to a coded manuscript, each feeling a glyph of hidden meaning. What if the act of remembering is akin to translating those ancient runes, phrase by phrase? As you learn to read the symbols in your dreams, each revelation reframes what you thought was blank. The paradox intensifies. Blankness conceals rather than reveals, and unveiling it breeds more questions. Yet, one final symbol hovers, teasing a truth ready to rewrite everything you know. Now, the stakes skyrocket as you stand before that last unscripted page of your soul's autobiography. The pressure mounts. You're no longer content with fragments. You demand the original draft. What will you risk to reclaim the verses that were never meant to survive your birth? A door swings open beyond the threshold of perception, its echo promising both salvation and ruin. And at that doorway, you'll confront the question that has eluded you since the beginning. In the heart of every atom lies a secret dance, unseen, yet profoundly alive. Quantum physics reveals particles that exist in multiple states until we intervene. Could this indeterminate realm be the tapestry where your soul first etched its covenant? When your intention collapses possibilities into reality, are you merely observing or awakening lost memories? And as the veil between observer and observed trembles, you sense something vast poised to emerge. Imagine your consciousness as a photon, traveling both wave and particle through existence. Each thought pulses like an energy field, collapsing quantum probabilities into a single experience. What if those shimmering potentials carry imprints from before your first heartbeat? Spiritual teachings speak of an all-pervading field, an Akashic record written in light and possibility. Yet as you reach for that radiant archive, its contours blur at the edges of comprehension. Neuroscientists are now mapping quantum effects. In microtubules within neurons, tiny conduits of awareness. Could your brain be a quantum computer, encoding echoes of your pre-birth vow in superposed states? Every flicker of intuition might be the collapse of a cosmic waveform, revealing a fragment of forgotten truth. Philosophers debate whether matter creates mind or mind animates matter. So who or what truly moves first? But just when you think you've grasped the pattern, the waveform dissolves into deeper enigma. At the threshold of perception, time ceases to flow linearly. Past and future converge in a single instant. Have you ever felt a memory ripple forward, predicting a moment, yet to unfold? This precognitive pulse hints at a timeline where your soul's promise still resonates beyond birth. As the quantum veil quivers, you catch a glimpse of a fractal road looping back to that ancient accord. And with each returning echo, the path you thought was closed springs open once more. Enter the realm of entanglement, where distant particles remain connected beyond space and perhaps beyond life. Could your consciousness still be entwined with fragments of your pre-existence, tethered across dimensions? When you know something without knowing why, you might be feeling that quantum bond reassert itself. Spiritual texts hint at a cosmic dance partner who never left, the soul signature woven into every quanta. Yet with every heartbeat, the tangled strands tighten, pulling you toward a revelation both alluring and terrifying. Now, as you stand before this shimmering veil, a single question hangs in the ether. What happens if you pierce it? If you force the collapse of this ancient superposition, will the shadows of your original self flood back? The air crackles with potential, an invitation to step beyond the edge of measurable reality. One careful thought, one brave intention, and the veil may rend. But what lies on the other side of that slit in existence, waiting to remember you? Beneath the calm surface of your waking mind lies an ocean of uncharted depths, swirling with mysteries. This subconscious sea holds the wreckage of forgotten vows and silent hopes you once carried before birth. What if a lone lighthouse, your inner awareness, casts a beam across those dark waters, revealing shapes? Neuroscience shows brainwaves pulsing like tides, hints that something vast stirs beneath ordinary thought. And as that beacon sweeps the abyss, you glimpse movement in the gloom. Deep psychology tells of currents that guide you without your knowing, whispering through your dreams. Those currents might be the soul's compass, steering you toward relics of promises made in the void. Symbols surfacing in sleep become drifting flags, marking sunken temples of your hidden history. Each night, these peculiar visions beckon. Are they warnings or fragments of ancient wisdom? Before the signal fades, you sense the true compass lies just beyond the beam's reach. Imagine exploring this inner ocean by submersible. Your attention, a fragile hull against crushing depths. Brain imaging reveals dark zones of inactivity. But what if those blackened regions map forgotten realms? Dreams are sonar pings, revealing shapes and patterns scientists cannot fully decipher. Spiritual traditions speak of navigating by starlight within, following constellations of emotion. And just as the submersible nears the abyssal plain, AI and a new beacon flickers on the horizon. Your emotions surge like storm-driven waves, signaling tectonic shifts in the fabric of your psyche. Cognitive science tracks amygdala alarms, yet these surges feel like echoes of ancestral memories. Could that tremor in your chest be the submarine's hull creaking under the weight of latent truth? Philosophical mystics claim consciousness is an island afloat on an infinite sea. Who charts its coast? With every swell, the lighthouse pulses faster, beckoning you toward a breach you cannot ignore. Quantum theories whisper that mind and matter are entangled, currents overlapping. Beyond the visible, what if each pulse of thought sends out ripples across this inner ocean, stirring hidden undercurrents? The lighthouse's glow might be your intent collapsing possibilities into a single illuminating beam. Yet, every photon of awareness refracts into countless paths, scattering clues about your origin. As you follow one ray, another emerges from the deep, promising more than any single truth. The lighthouse stands on a jagged outcrop of your subconscious, its walls etched with cryptic glyphs. You reach for the staircase spiraling down into the silent chamber at its base. Will it bear your weight? A cold draft escapes from below, carrying echoes of voices you cannot name or fully understand. The beam pulses in your vision, urging descent into realms where memory and mystery converge. And as your first footstep echoes on the stone, You hesitate at the threshold of what comes next. In the silent cathedral of your brain, billions of neurons whisper in electric code, each spark a potential revelation. What if those fleeting impulses carry fragments of a covenant you forged before your first breath? Neuroscience reveals that synapses adapt with every thought, rewiring the map of your inner cosmos. But could these changing pathways also be the soul's scribes transcribing messages from an earlier self? As you feel a sudden jolt of clarity, you'll wonder who truly authors your most intimate awakenings. Imagine each neuron as a messenger bird, dispatched with secret missives across the vast terrain of your mind. These tiny couriers pass along chemical tokens, hints of memory encoded in dopamine and serotonin. When joy or sorrow erupts without cause, is it pure biology or an encrypted dispatch from another realm? Deep psychology suggests emotional residues can precede conscious thought, as if the soul sends signals first. Yet before you can decode the message, the flock disperses. Into the neural night, recent studies reveal that glial cells support and prune these messenger networks, shaping which notes arrive. Could these caretakers be guardians of your pre-birth memories, deciding which to preserve and which to discard? Every sharpened thought and every blank spot might reflect their silent verdicts on what you can recall. Spiritual traditions speak of guardians at the gates of awareness. Are they woven from flesh and molecule? Just as you draw near to understanding their rules, the gate clicks shut once more. Each synaptic gap holds a universe of potential, a quantum shard waiting for your gaze to collapse its state. When attention lands, molecules align and hidden messages crystallize, brief, radiant, and then gone. Philosophers argue that observation creates reality, so perhaps your focus summons buried echoes. Every decision to observe or to look away shifts the landscape of what your neurons choose to reveal. And in that fleeting instant of revelation, you catch a glimpse of a script you never knew you were reading. Symbols flare in your mind's eye, ancient runes manifesting in patterns of electromagnetic dance. Could these luminous signs be the soul's watermark on the biology of thought itself? As your neurons fire in synchronized chorus, you feel a resonance deeper than any memory can explain. That resonance hums with the echo of promises made in the void, vibrating across time and space. But when the symphony crescendos, the final note dissolves, leaving silence pregnant with possibility. Now, at the intersection of biology and spirit, you stand before the ultimate question. Are your neurons merely conduits for chemical reactions or messengers of a self that predates your birth? A hidden pulse throbs beneath every thought, urging you to listen more closely. What will you discover? The current hum in your skull intensifies, promising a message that could redefine your very essence. And just as the synaptic veil begins to part, you sense something unspeakable poised to speak. Deep within your dreams, strange symbols emerge as if summoned by a hand older than time. Jung called these archetypes the invisible patterns etched into the collective mind. But what if these shapes are personal footprints of your own soul's journey before birth? Neuroscience now finds that certain images trigger universal responses in our brains. As you recognize one of these haunted symbols, you'll feel a whisper from your forgotten past. A simple circle can stir awe, recalling sacred courts of initiation you never attended. A serpent's curve might awaken latent fear or wisdom encoded deep in your DNA. Could these reactions be echoes of vows you made in a realm unbound by space? Philosophers suggest our consciousness shapes reality, so perhaps these glyphs shaped you. Yet each time you trace their contours, you sense the design, flicker just beyond clarity. In therapy, clients describe encounters with figures both terrifying and luminous. These inner guides and tricksters appear without warning, bearing cryptic messages. Psychologists map these encounters to emotional circuits. But what maps the Mapmaker? Spiritual mystics speak of a hidden order, a library of soul forms waiting to be read. And as you witness one of these spectral figures, you'll question who truly holds the pen. Symbols in art and architecture whisper across cultures, a secret language of the ineffable. When you see the same motif etched in a temple half a world away, coincidence falls silent. Could these repeating patterns be signposts pointing back to that pre-birth contract? Each brushstroke of recognition sparks a memory you never knew you lost. But just as you begin to translate their meaning, the script reshapes itself. In the hushed hour before sleep, your mind projects vivid tableaux, ancient rites, alien landscapes. Neuroscientists call this REM sleep, but shamans name it the gateway to the inner world. What if these nightly visions are guided tours through the archives of your soul's first pages? Every symbol shines like a lantern on hidden halls, illuminating corridors you cannot yet traverse. And when the last vision dissolves at dawn, the threshold to that realm remains. Now, standing at the edge of this symbolic labyrinth, you feel the pulse of something vast. The archetypes beckon you deeper, promising truths that defy logic yet resonate in your bones. What revelation waits in the center of this maze, guarded by images older than memory? A single sign glows brighter than the rest. Will you dare to follow its light beyond the veil? And as that glow intensifies, you'll realize you're not merely observing. You're summoned. Every glance you cast inward reshapes the landscape of your mind, like a sculptor tracing contours in clay. In quantum theory, observation collapses possibilities. Could your focus be igniting dormant memories? When you ask yourself, who am I beyond this moment? You disturb currents deep in your subconscious. Neuroscientists confirm that attention alone rewires neural circuits. So what if those shifts revive old echoes? And as you turn your gaze toward the hidden archives, the first fragment of remembrance trembles into view. Imagine your consciousness as both artist and canvas, painting the scene while also revealing what lies beneath. Each question you pose becomes a beam of light, illuminating sealed vaults of pre-birth knowledge. Philosophers suggest reality is co-created by participant and cosmos, so perhaps your mind is the key. With each mindful breath, you collapse the wave of possibilities, choosing which whispers to resurrect. Yet, just as the vault clicks open, a ripple of uncertainty warns that this is only the prologue. In meditation, you sit as witness, observing. Thoughts drift like clouds across a vast sky. But what if some clouds carry the weight of promises made before time began? Brain imaging shows the default mode network fires when we self-reflect. Could this be your soul's ignition? Every moment of stillness becomes a summons, an invitation to retrieve what you once knew. And before the horizon clears, you sense a storm gathering just beyond the calm expanse. Each intention you hold is a magnetic pull, drawing together fractured shards of your former self. Subtle shifts in focus can trigger cascades of insight, like dominoes of recollection toppling in sequence. Could your will alone resurrect vows buried beneath layers of everyday distraction? Spiritual traditions teach that witness consciousness transcends time. What if that's your birthright? But as the final domino teeters, you brace for the cascade that may change everything you believe. In this dance of observer and observed, you become both seeker and the sought-after secret. Your very act of watching could be the signal that awakens long-dormant neural pathways. Each awareness pulse ripples outward, stirring echoes that stretch beyond the confines of self. Yet for every revelation gained, new questions surge to the surface, demanding their turn. And when the final ripple fades, you'll find yourself at the threshold of a truth too vast to name. Now, the stage is set, your gaze has pierced the veil, and the first door swings open. What will you find when you step across that threshold of consciousness and recall? The air hums with anticipation, as if the universe itself holds its breath. One more focus, one more question, and the cascade of remembrance will break free. But will you be ready for what floods in on the other side? A quiet voice stirs beneath the clamor of everyday thought, hinting at truths you can't yet name. This veiled witness, your intuition, knows corridors of memory before your conscious mind arrives. Neuroscientists link gut feelings to rapid, neural pathways, as if your brain's back door has secrets to share. Could these urgings be the first murmurs of that pre-birth covenant, reaching you in coded signals? And as you lean in to hear, the whisper grows urgent, promising revelations you never imagined. Imagine intuition as a shadow guide, leading you through a labyrinth you've only glimpsed in dreams. Each inexplicable hunch is a flicker on the map of your hidden history, urging you to take a new turn. Philosophers call this inner knowing the nous, an ancient spark beyond reason's reach. When you pause to honor that spark, the walls of your mind shift, granting access to deeper chambers. But before you step through the next doorway, the path behind you begins to dissolve. That sudden certainty, so electrifying yet so elusive, could it be the echo of a promise whispered before life began? Cognitive research reveals split-second decisions made long before we're aware, guided by unseen forces. What if those forces are the soul's compass, calibrated by the agreement you inked in the void? Every time you trust that silent nudge, you reinforce the neural highway to your submerged self. Yet as you glide along this hidden byway, the scenery grows stranger and more wondrous. Ancient mystics described intuition as a living being within us, an inner oracle that never sleeps. Your rational mind may dismiss its urgings as coincidence, but what if it's the true architect of insight? Spiritual symbolism paints intuition as a key, small, unassuming, yet able to unlock cosmic doors. As you reach for that key, you feel its cool metal against your palm, humming with latent power. One careful turn and you sense the lock give way. But will the portal swing fully open? Each time you follow intuition's lead, a fragment of memory flickers in your awareness like lightning. Those flashes reveal echoes of landscapes you've never visited and voices you've never heard, yet know. Could these glimpses be signposts from the self you left behind, calling you homeward across time? With every flash, the boundary between past and present thins, inviting you to step through. Then, in the hush that follows, you question, is the guide leading you toward truth or deeper mystery? Now poised at the threshold of instinct and insight, you prepare to trust what cannot be seen. The veiled witness beckons you forward, its pull irresistible, its destination unknown. Will you step into the shadows it offers, where memory and mystery entwine beyond reason? A single choice stands between you and the hidden realm waiting to remember your soul. And as you take that step, the whisper rises to a chorus. Are you ready to listen? When sleep descends, your mind becomes an alchemist's crucible, forging symbols from shadow and light. Dreams stir the primal elements of consciousness, blending memory and imagination like molten gold. Could these nightly visions be fragments of the soul's pre-birth ledger, reshaped by your psyche's fire? Neuroscience shows tracts of brain activity lighting up in REM. What if those flares map hidden archives? And as the dreamscape shimmers, you feel the pull of something vast, just beyond the horizon of sleep. You wander through surreal corridors, inverted temples, forests of glowing glyphs, and mirrors that speak. Each scene hums with uncanny familiarity, as if you're reenacting rituals you once performed beyond time. Psychologists call this oniric symbolism, but spiritual adepts insist dreams unlock sealed doorways. Every image feels like an encoded phrase, awaiting the right alchemical formula to make it whole. Yet before you can transmute the first symbol, it dissolves into mist, leaving only a riddle. Feelings in dreams surge like tinctures, ecstasy, distilled into brief wonder, fear concentrated into dread. These concentrated emotions may be the purest distillate of your soul's ancient covenant with amnesia. Philosophers propose that the sleeping mind travels across dimensions where time loops like a serpent. If so, each dream is a visitation to another version of yourself, carrying messages in symbolic guise. And as you awaken trembling, you know, the true philosopher's stone lies hidden in the next reverie. In lucid moments, you seize the dream's reins, shifting landscapes with a thought, speaking without voice. That power to shape the dream world hints at mastery over memory. Could you unseal your forgotten pact? Scientific explorers train subjects to control their dreams, mapping consciousness like cartographers. But what chart can capture the terrain of a soul unbound by birth's blank slate? Just when you bend a dream to your will, the scene fragments and a deeper mystery emerges. Symbols collide in kaleidoscopic crescendo. Phoenix wings over quantum fractals, ancient script aflame. Are you witnessing your own soul's signature, the seal of your pre-birth agreement blazing in technicolor? Every shard of that vivid finale tugs at your waking mind, demanding translation beyond words. The very act of recalling it seems to veil the vision anew, proof that some truths resist capture. And as the final image glows and fades, you realize the crucible of sleep hides more than it reveals. Now, as dawn's light creeps into your room, you clutch the memory of that alchemical dream. Will you dare return tonight, ready to transmute another vision into waking insight? The crucible beckons once more, its flames dancing with promise and peril. What is the true gold buried within your night visions? And are you prepared to face its weight? Because when the next dream unfolds, everything you believed about memory may melt away. What if every facet of your reality is but a projection, a hologram cast by a memory you once held? Physicists propose our universe mirrors, information on a distant surface. Could your life be its reflection? When you touch an object, is it solid substance or a beam of encoded light unfolding beneath your skin? Spiritual sages whisper of worlds within worlds, each layer a mirror of deeper truths you cannot yet grasp. And as the projection shimmers, a question pulses. Are you the projector or merely the image? Imagine consciousness as both observer and screen, painting scenes that feel incontrovertibly real. Neuroscience shows your brain constructs reality by stitching sensory data. Yet what stitches bound your soul? Could the patterns of light and shadow dancing in your mind be relics of a pre-birth hologram? Each thought triggers new pixels of experience, projecting fragments of origin hidden in plain sight. But just as you sense the edges of the display, the image warps, revealing cracks in the facade. Across cultures, mystics describe the world as an illusion, a divine play of light and consciousness. Quantum experiments hint particles behave differently when unobserved. So who embarks on this cosmic stage? Philosophers ask if reality needs a witness. Does your presence give shape to the projection of yourself? Every decision, every awakening, might be the turning of a cosmic lens, focusing long-forgotten designs. Yet, as you peer into these flickering depths, the scene rearranges, beckoning you further. Memories and perceptions overlap like layered transparencies, each holding a piece of the original film. What you call past may be a latent scene set to play once you find the right focal point within. Deep psychology compares the mind to a projector room, reels spinning behind a closed curtain. Could your subconscious hold the script of that unrehearsed show you once agreed to forget? As the curtain trembles, you realize pulling one thread could unravel the entire projection. When synchronicities align, chance meetings, repeated numbers, you glimpse the projector's flicker. These alignments feel too precise to be random. They resonate like signatures on the light itself. Spiritual traditions name this the language of synchronicity, encoded prompts beckoning you home. With every synchronic spark, the hologram flickers, offering a glimpse of the filmmaker behind the lens. And yet, the moment you reach for the source, the lights dim, leaving only a tantalizing hush. Standing before this half-visible projector, you sense the next click could merge image and reality. Will you dare to step behind the light to see who or what is orchestrating your life's illumination? The air vibrates with that unsung key, waiting to unlock a realm where you are, both actor and author. One gentle touch could halt the reel forever, or start a new showing of truths unimagined. But in the silence that follows, you wonder, who watches the watcher when the hologram falls away? There's a part of you that watches without words, a silent partner observing every thought and feeling. Neuroscience calls this the default mode network, an ever-present backdrop when you drift inward. What if this witness is more than mere biology, but the first echo of your pre-birth agreement? It holds a steady gaze on your mind stage, even when the actors, your thoughts, rage and dance. And as you learn to recognize this presence, you'll glimpse the door to deeper remembrance. In meditation, you sit still while that silent partner speaks through absence, not sound. Brain scans light up the zones where self-reflection dwells. Could those patterns be soul signatures? Every time you notice a thought arise without judgment, you strengthen the channel to that witness. Spiritual teachers call it the observer, the spark of consciousness untouched by reaction. Yet each time you lean into its quiet glow, reality seems to shift just out of focus. Imagine your emotions as waves and the inner witness as the lighthouse perched beyond the surf. When fear crashes in, it doesn't drag you under. It simply watches the tide rise and fall. Psychologists link this capacity to emotional resilience, but perhaps it's the soul's compass instead. That still point in the storm may be the unbroken thread leading back to the promise you made. But as the waves grow higher, the lighthouse beam flickers. Will it guide you further or fade? Philosophers argue that the witness is the I that remains when all else dissolves into thought. Spiritual mystics name it the pearl within, the unspoken core that pre-exists every experience. Could this kernel of awareness be the seed from which all your memories will sprout anew? Each moment you rest in its silence, you prepare the soil for revelations long buried. Just as you sense new life stirring beneath the surface, the ground trembles with potential. One day, you may find yourself watching grief or joy unfold as if it were someone else's story. That alien sense of witnessing your own pain or ecstasy could be the spark of ultimate remembrance. When the observer steps forward, the boundary between self and soul begins to blur. A single glance from that silent partner can reawaken the faint memory of your pre-birth covenant. And in the stillness before merging, you'll face the choice: remain the watcher or become what's watched. Your emotions follow hidden algorithms, patterns running beneath the surface of every heartbeat. Cognitive science maps bias and heuristic loops, yet what if these circuits trace back to your soul's blueprint? Each pang of longing or surge of delight could be an encrypted packet of pre-birth data awaiting decryption. When tears fall unprovoked, they might be the overflow of code refusing its intended purge. And as you study these emotional pulses, you'll sense an unfolding pattern richer than any mood chart. Imagine your feelings as lines of code, complex instructions looping in neural feedback. Deep psychology speaks of conditioning, but perhaps the first lines were written in a different realm. Every time anxiety spikes without cause, that glitch could spotlight a fragment of your ancient contract. Spiritual thinkers liken emotion to alchemy, transmuting raw energy into meaningful signal. Yet when you attempt to trace that signal's origin, the code recombines before your very eyes. In moments of profound awe, standing at a mountaintop or gazing at the stars, you break free of routine loops. Your mind's firewall drops and the original source code hums like a distant server rebooting. Are these spiritual highs mere chemistry, or the soul's proxy, calling lost fragments back home. Philosophers argue that felt experience is the true currency of being, transcending words and logic. And with each peak of wonder, the lines of your hidden program flash into view, then vanish. Every unspoken dread and unexplained smile acts like a pointer in memory's vast heap. Neuroscientists now use machine learning to decode emotional patterns. Could their models uncover your origin script? When you recognize a recurring motif in your reactions, you're tracing breadcrumbs to that forgotten code. Ancient wisdom describes the heart as a ledger of events beyond time's reach, each entry a vow to remember. But as you follow those traces deeper, the paths fork into even more labyrinthine loops. Decrypting this emotional code demands both curiosity and courage. Each insight risks unraveling comfortable lies. You must learn to observe without judgment, catching glitches in the system before they auto-correct. Spiritual practice teaches non-resistance, allowing the soul's data to surface unfiltered into consciousness. As you confront these raw streams, you'll encounter messages you never expected to see, raw and luminous. Then, when the final subroutine appears, you'll hold the key to an algorithm so profound it defies explanation. Now, poised at the brink of full decryption, you face a choice. Run from the code or embrace its revelations. One last fragment hovers in the darkness of your mind, flickering like a cursor awaiting your command. Will you execute this hidden program and let its truths rewrite the narrative of your life? The air crackles with potential as the algorithm's final line beckons you into the unknown. And as your finger hovers over that command, everything you thought you knew presses pause. Within the vast network of your brain, one solitary neuron fires with a sacred spark of awareness. Scientists now find individual cells capable of holding unique memory engrams. Could yours bear the imprint of your soul's origin? Imagine that this single cell, tiny and unremarkable, carries the echo of the covenant you made before birth. Every time it fires, it hums with possibility, bridging the gap between biology and boundless consciousness. And as you focus on its gentle pulse, you feel a tremor of recognition stir within. Picture tracing that neuron's path through synaptic highways, each junction a crossroads of meaning. Neuroscience shows that microtubules within neurons behave like quantum processors. Could they encode pre-birth data? What if the geometry of its connections formed a living mandala, a hidden diagram of your earliest vows? Spiritual seekers speak of the body as a temple, and this neuron may be the shrine that guards your deepest truth. Yet when you reach to map its route, the trail dissolves into a web of infinite complexity. In moments of profound silence, you sense that this cell holds the key to ultimate belonging. Its solitary flash in the neural dark might be the first beacon of remembrance in your waking mind. Philosophers suggest that consciousness emerges from microcosmic events. So could one neuron unlock the universe? Each heartbeat resonates with its cadence, as if your entire awareness pulses in time with that sacred flicker. But before you can capture its full glow, the light dims, beckoning you to search deeper. When you meditate, your brain waves synchronize, and that lone neuron begins to sing in harmony. Researchers call this coherence. But what if it's the soul tuning itself to its original frequency? Every inhale and exhale coaxes its glow brighter, teasing fragments of a memory too vast for words. Spiritual texts describe a single cell that holds the seed of the cosmos. Might this be that living seed? As its song rises, you sense the veil trembling between the seen and the unseen. Just as you feel on the verge of communion, the neuron's pattern splinters into myriad echoes. Each echo sparks a question. Was the memory ever contained in one cell or dispersed across a cosmic network? Deep within this divide lies the paradox of unity and multiplicity, core and cosmos entwined. You stand at that nexus, listening for the one true tone amid the chorus of potential. And as the echoes cascade, you wonder which note will crack the code of your forgotten covenant. Now, with that neuron's resonance still humming in your veins, you prepare to dive beyond its glow. What will you discover when you follow its final echo into the hidden chambers of your mind? The pulse quickens, inviting you to step into a realm where a single cell holds infinite secrets. One careful breath, and the sacred neuron may unveil the blueprint of your very essence. But in that suspended moment before revelation, the question remains: are you ready to listen? You've noticed life's uncanny repetitions, echoes of events, phrases, or faces looping back in mysterious ways. Fractals in nature reveal endless detail in simple forms. Could your path of remembering follow a similar design? Each insight you harvest mirrors another, smaller revelation reflecting a grander truth you've yet to grasp. Neuroscience finds fractal patterns in brain activity, hinting your awareness might unfold in recursive spirals. As you glimpse the smaller loop within the larger, you'll sense an infinite rhythm calling you onward. Imagine zooming into a mandala only to find the same pattern emerging at every scale of perception. Every dream, intuition, and synchronicity could be a fractal echo, a clue to a deeper, self-repeating secret. Philosophers argue that consciousness itself may be fractal, an endless interplay of micro and macro awareness. As you follow one spiral deeper, another unravels behind it, promising ever more intricate design. Yet just as you think you've mapped the pattern, it multiplies, defying any single explanation. That sensation of déjà vu may be the fractal's signature, a recursive loop tugging at your attention. Deep psychology shows we seek patterns to feel safe. What if you're being guided to fractal clues of origin? Each symbolic recurrence becomes a stepping stone, leading you through self-similar corridors of memory. Spiritual traditions speak of the Ouroboros, the snake devouring itself in cyclical rebirth, your map and key. But as the circle seems complete, you realize its end is just the beginning of another circle. In meditation, your thoughts spiral inward like concentric circles on still water, each ripple feeding the next. You reach a point where the outer and inner merge, a sacred intersection where fractal awareness blooms. Neuroscientists detect scale-free dynamics in neural networks. Could this be the architecture of your awakening? Every turn you take reveals a smaller, more profound version of the same mystery you thought you solved. And when the calm at the center beckons, you glimpse a threshold that no recursive pattern can fully describe. Symbols carved in ancient temples follow the same fractal logic, trees of life sprouting within trees of life. Each carving is a U guidepost, pointing to the infinite branches of your own unfolding consciousness. When you recognize a fractal glyph, the corridors of your mind align, opening pathways you never knew existed. Yet the moment you try to draw its final shape, it expands beyond your view, inviting another journey inward. And as the corridors multiply, you'll realize the fractal you chase has always been chasing you. Now standing at the edge of this recursive labyrinth, you sense the fractal's pulse in your own heartbeat. Will you follow the pattern into ever smaller realms, or will you leap to the infinite whole that awaits beyond? Something at the core of this spiral hums with the promise of ultimate remembering, if you dare to descend. One last glance at the repeating shapes, and the fractal doors swing open to realms unbound by scale. But as you step forward, you wonder, is the journey ever ending, or is the true fractal hiding in its pause? A thin membrane of forgetting separates your current life from the full spectrum of your soul's past. What if that veil isn't a barrier, but a gateway, poised to dissolve at your final act of remembrance? Neuroscience and mysticism converge. Here, Brain rhythms slow to theta waves as consciousness expands. When you sense the world slowing, as if reality itself is holding its breath, you stand at this threshold. And in that pregnant pause, you'll feel the first stirrings of everything you once agreed to forget. Imagine drawing a last deep breath before plunging into a hidden reservoir of memory. Each heartbeat resonates with a soft drum, echoing the rhythm of a long-lost melody in your soul. Philosophers call this liminal state the edge of being, AIE, place where self and source almost merge. Spiritual texts whisper of a final initiation, a moment when the veil parts and you remember all. Yet, as the veil shimmers before you, its shape shifts, beckoning you to decide whether to cross. In meditation, you enter darkness deeper than sleep, where no thoughts linger, only pure awareness. This silence is not emptiness, but the living husk of all you once were, waiting to be re-inhabited. Every fiber of your being hums with anticipation. Will. You step through or retreat into comfort. Psychologists note transformative experiences often hinge on that final surrender of control. And as the silence reaches a crescendo, you sense the veil's edge quiver with potential. A single intention might be the catalyst that tears the membrane of amnesia in two. When you will yourself forward, the veil fluoresces, revealing filaments of light, your true history. Each filament pulses with scenes of other lives, cosmic contracts, and promises etched in starlight. But to follow one filament is to risk losing the thread of your current identity forever. And as those luminous strands beckon, you'll face the ultimate question: what are you willing to remember? In that moment, time itself seems to pause, as if the universe waits for your decision. Do you embrace the flood of remembrance, even if it washes away everything you know? Or do you let the veil remain, preserving the mystery at the heart of your journey? The choice hangs between liberation and the safety of unknowing, each path cloaked in enigma, and as the void between these options widens, you'll feel the veil tremble one last time. Now, with your heart pounding in the silent space before revelation, you stand at the precipice. What happens when you step through that final veil? Will you emerge as the architect of your soul? One small movement, a shift in intention, and the membrane may part forever. But as you lean forward, the world holds its breath. Are you ready to remember everything?